at this point of time, West Indies are a test playing nation only because of their pacers. There is absolutely no other skill in the West Indies team at this moment. Sorry to say, but that's the harsh fact.
If he does, again, God forbid, break down in the first test against West Indies, 6 months before T20 World Cup, then you'd again throw daggers at the selectors and be like, why are you playing Bumrah in a silly series at home?
अगर वो स्क्वाड में होता है 11 में नहीं होता है, and then he opts to go outside the team and just lie low, उससे भी लोगों को प्रॉब्लम है.
लोग तो पूछेंगे. There's no point. Daggers will be thrown one way or the other. Siraj and Prasid themselves aren't any run-of-the-mill bowlers. They are more than handy bowlers to have, especially in these conditions. The last time they played was 4th of August, so it would have been nearly 2 months by the time the Test series begins. India needs to adopt the England strategy of how every time they would say, rotation. Whatever it is, we are rotating our bowlers. We're doing this.
To me, even in this Asia Cup, Bumrah did not seem anywhere close to his best.
Hi guys, you're watching Bat Ball and Bet out with me, Avni Shagdi, and let's get into a discussion today about Jasprit Bumrah and him featuring in the home test series against West Indies.
Right, let's talk about India-West Indies then, but with a different sort of preview to the Test series, because the one question we always kind of ask ourselves as Indian fans is like, why do we need Bumrah for home tests against the so-called minnows? And with all due respect to the West Indies time, they're not going to be favourites heading into the series. So again, first of all to Akshay here, Bumrah features in the squad, will you play him? Because they rested him a couple of tests in England, he bowled 18 overs in the Asia Cup. And now you're playing him for 2 tests against West Indies. I know it's important World Test Championship points, but your take, would you play him?
I definitely would not. If anything, I wasn't a big fan of him being selected for the Asia Cup squad itself, let alone the West Indies series. And yeah, while one can argue about the WTC points, it's not like the Indian team in home conditions cannot function without Bumrah. We've done that in the past, and there's no reason to believe that we cannot do it going forward. Especially why I think it is important to rest Bumrah, apart from, giving him, a much needed break, is to also bring in other youngsters, other options into the setup. Yaar. Matlab, if you keep playing the same names, even if it is at the cost of injuring them or the risk of injuring them, then I don't know what purpose are you trying to achieve. Because for the longest time, the argument also going in Shubman Gill's favor as the Indian skipper was, yeah, Bumrah in home conditions in all likelihood would not be featuring, which means then Gill naturally would be a much better option because he would be featuring for Team India across conditions when it comes to red ball cricket. If Ajit Agarkar and Gautam Gambhir had that foresight, ki boss, you know what? We will be playing Jasprit Bumrah irrespective of the conditions. He is going to be our spearhead. He's going to be the leader of our bowling attack, so we would want him. Then you could have also made him the skipper itself. So that's another point that I sort of, want to sort of ask them, what is the thinking? What is the rationale there? And yeah, we know the kind of West Indies, lineup that we're going to be facing. Shamar Joseph has been ruled out. Gudakesh Moti has not been included. It doesn't even look like a full-strength West Indies 11 itself. So I for one would definitely not be playing him to begin with unless there is a result that no one foresees in the first test. Then maybe, but even then, that is a very unlikely scenario for me.
Yeah, going into the series, Ajit Agarkar clearly said that they don't want to repeat the New Zealand home series, and we know what happened in that. And I don't think even in our wildest dreams we can expect that. Again, with all due respect to the West Indies, but so I'm looking at Bumrah's Test career. Sure, he's brilliant, world beater, 48 tests, 12 out of which have been in India. So that's pretty much 25% of his Test career in India. Same question to you as I asked Akshay. Would you even play him in this Test?
Okay, I'll just go take a step back to what Agarkar said, that they don't want a repeat of New Zealand. I think if they don't want a repeat of New Zealand, instead of more than the squad, what they need to do is just play on proper pitches. Stop playing on garbage pitches where you bring in below average opposition spinners into the game over your world class ones. So I think that should be the decision that should have been taken. Regarding selection of Bumrah, I think as far as I can remember, this is the first time where I see where I can actually feel Gambhir has given in to the optics more than his convictions, because there is absolutely no reason for Bumrah to be in the squad. And the fault lies with the general public as well, because we have been after Bumrah for a very long time. Ki bhai, England, whatever happened in England, and it's very unfair on the player himself. But at the end of the day, kitna bhi bolo noise hai, it's going to affect the player. Just this last week, we saw him replying to a Mohammad KF tweet, which he really didn't need to. But even he now is feeling that pinch कि भाई क्या है भाई, I've done so much for the country and yet people are questioning my commitment. So he's in the squad, and B, I see him playing. The reason is in the past, अगर वो स्क्वाड में होता है 11 में नहीं होता एंड देन ही ऑप्ट्स टू गो आउटसाइड द टीम एंड जस्ट लाई लो, उससे भी लोगों को प्रॉब्लम है. So they're not going to just rest him and be part of the dressing room squad में select करके. So I see him playing. He shouldn't have, because West Indies is not New Zealand. West Indies at this point of time, West Indies are a test playing nation only because of their pacers. There is absolutely no other skill in the West Indies team at this moment. Sorry to say, but that's the harsh fact. Had this test series been in the West Indies, I would have still, of course, Bumrah then would have played because of the Duke's ball and pace friendly conditions. But in India, I don't see West Indies competing. And I mean, more than Bumrah, I'm looking forward to whether Kuldeep plays or not, because seeing how India have selected their 11s during Gambhir's tenure, they might go ahead with Jadeja, Aksar, and Sundar, and not pick Kuldeep, which would not be a ideal, and B would be a big mistake. So yeah, to answer your question, it's just the team management. Everyone is giving in to the optics. Bumrah had no business playing in this series, and it's just unfortunate. And the fault this time lies with the public as well, and the short memory that they have about the people who actually contributed a lot to the team.
The conversation often crops up, Akshay, when we talk about Bumrah and be like, let's be selective, whether it's fans or the selectors kind of choosing him for certain series. And people would have probably laughed at India, even using him in the Asia Cup, because we saw the quality that India had. And many people were even thinking that we could have won the Asia Cup without Bumrah, because Bumrah's performances weren't spectacular, didn't impact the team. Sure, he got a couple of wickets here and there, but it wasn't the typical Bumrah that we know of. My question to you is now, if he does, again, God forbid, break down in the first test against West Indies, 6 months before T20 World Cup, then you'd again throw daggers at the selectors and be like, why are you playing Bumrah in a really silly series at home with important WTC points to be played for? There's way too much armor that we have in our arsenal against West Indies.
यार देखो, मतलब like Somi said, लोग तो पूछेंगे. There's no point. Daggers will be thrown one way or the other. And fair, I'm willing to, give the management the benefit of doubt if this is the reason. Like, of course, they will never sort of come out in the open and say, yeah, because you guys are talking so much, that's why we're including him. They won't ever come out and say that for sure. That's where, if that is the case, you can always say, he has a slight niggle, so we're just, monitoring him, we're looking at him, and we'll sort of see through over the series if we want to play him or not. Aisa kuch bahana dekhe, they can still rest him. I do agree, of course, he will receive a lot more flack if he decides to step out and all, and that's why you would probably expect him to exercise a bit of caution if and when he wants to do something like that, but that anyway is off the field. On the field, I still do believe Bumrah, he has absolutely no business staying anywhere within the boundary circles during the test series. And series gets 2 test matches against not so great batters off the Windies. It's not even like they have that's what West Indies' strongest suit is their bowling. It's not like you've got some batters that you need to be wary of. And even if they are, Siraj and Prasid themselves aren't any run-of-the-mill bowlers. They are more than handy bowlers to have, especially in these conditions. And both were rested for the Asia Cup. Both have had a decent amount of a decent break, to be honest. The last time they played was 4th of August, so it would have been nearly 2 months by the time the test series begins. That is enough of a break for them to have recuperated and be ready. So let us have a fresh set of legs out there in the field. So for now, to begin with, I'm definitely not wanting to see Bumrah start, and I don't think we will be seeing Bumrah start. They'll probably come up with their own reasons. Basically, India needs to adopt the England strategy of how every time they would say, rotation. Whatever it is, we are rotating our bowlers, we're doing this. Just come up with a templatized answer ki boss, we are monitoring him, he has a slight niggle. जिनको लेना है, they will take it. जिनको नहीं लेना, वो तो वैसे भी they will come at you and they will ask you questions one way or the other. So there's no point trying to solve for it. So yeah.
2 things that I've just taken away from this conversation. One is what Som mentioned at the top, which is the pitches. And Agarkar and the BCCI and the curators need to really prepare good decks. So it's not just Gudakesh Moti coming into play on a day 3 turner and putting India to shame, or whoever it could be. And the second bit is I see Bumrah playing as, like you guys have mentioned, probably play the 50th at the Delhi Test. But my question to you, so is do you see him play in that ODI series against Australia 5 days later? Say the second test goes to day 5, India play 5 days later in Perth. I'm pretty sure he doesn't feature in any of our squads, right? And then it vindicates his decision of test selection.
See, that is what logic dictates. But अभी अभी मतलब कुछ भी बोलना is a little premature because to me even in this Asia Cup Bumrah did not seem anywhere close to his best. And it is down to, I mean, it has to be down to fatigue or I mean those sort of things यार. मतलब ऐसा तो नहीं होगा ना कि skill चली गई. Even in the first test against England he was miles ahead of every other bowler. So it's no purely down to fatigue, and I hope, I mean, they just get their act together and sort this out because you would need Bumrah 6 months later. फिर अभी और भी बड़े सीरीज आएंगे यार अभी. So I think India playing South Africa at home if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So they need Bumrah in those tests probably. They need him in New Zealand. So they should just go back to their earlier stance on using your uh, nuclear arsenal whenever it's needed the most and not sort of उसको बीच में मत लाओ जबरदस्ती रन ऑफ द मिल रेगुलर कॉन्वर्सेशंस में.
I mean, if he's not playing, wrap him in cotton wool is what every Indian fan is always saying. Guys, any other takeaways from this particular test squad, the series? Any anticipations that you want to see? Because Jadeja made vice captain, so I'm guessing he'll last the tenure of this WTC cycle as well. So,
And deservingly so. He was one of the best batters of the England tour. As much as we have criticized him of sort of being a bits and pieces player, at least on the batting front, he seems very solid. And when it comes to home tests, he would be one of the main bowlers as well. I'm looking forward to the role of Kuldeep Yadav because I feel he's very important. Not just now, probably in New Zealand as well. If they end up playing normal New Zealand wickets and not tweak the wickets just because India are there, Kuldeep would be useful. And yeah, I mean, a bit sorry about Sarfaraz not being there. It's slightly harsh, but I mean, I don't know. Either way, he played a massive knock against New Zealand in the first test, but then those two, um, uh, his short selection in the other two games really cost him a spot, which is unfortunate when it comes to him. But let's see. I mean, hoping for the again, this is a team which is rebuilding, so looking forward to how Sai Sudarshan turns up because he did not even simmer in England, let alone fire. So, I mean, this is going to be a massive opportunity for him.
I'm going to be interested to see how Padikkal fills in the void for Karan Nair, which is a like-for-like Karnataka swap. And Padikkal's been doing great things for India A too. Let's see if he can carry that on. Obviously, it's against West Indies. Akshay, question to you. Any particular thing that you want to see? It could be a triple centurion. I don't know if Jaiswal will turn up and just score massive amounts of runs, or it could be, I don't know, a West Indian player kind of stamping his authority, because so often we've seen in the past, anyone performs against India can really pick up their career from there. So any sort of hints you can give us?
Hints का तो पता नहीं, but definitely from a West Indies standpoint, I will actually be following the series from their lens because they've also made a couple of changes. There's been a change of helm. Roston Chase has been made captain. We spoke about Jadeja. Jomel Warrican on the other end, he's also been made vice captain over there. So that'll be something interesting to see. And Jaden Seals, man, like for those who followed us on MNL, Nikhil and I both had him as part of our Fab Four, so to say, of this gen of the next gen of pace bowlers. He's definitely wowed a lot of us, with the way he's bowled in home, at home conditions over there back in the Caribbean. He's definitely one to watch out for, especially in Ahmedabad. I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of a surface do they go ahead with. Is it going to be black soil or red soil? Because we all know what happened the last time a test was played over here, India, Australia. That was just a snooze fest. So if there is something in it for the bowlers, then Jaden Seals definitely. And with the bat, I've got two names once again. Roston Chase. I really like what I've seen of him. He's that typical utility batter who can, of course, bowl more than decently over there with his off spinners. But Alec Athanase, in white ball cricket, he's done massively well for West Indies in the last 18 months. Red ball cricket, I haven't seen much of him, but people who I have come across, who follow Caribbean cricket a lot more closely, they rate him very highly and they're really looking forward to him themselves. So that's another name to look forward to. So hopefully for the Windies themselves, there have been a couple of, favorable results for them in the recent past. So if they can just build on it and slowly inch towards, coming up with more talents in this format, especially, then you never know, man. You never know. Cricket is definitely a game of glorious uncertainties.
I'll tell you what, I'd love to see a Tej Narayan Chandrapal 100 just kind of taking a page out of the father's book who absolutely took India and their bowlers to shreds. Let's conclude this with just predictions. Is it going to be 2-0 West Indies, safe to say? 2-0 West Indies for you boys?
Hope so.
इतना hopeful नहीं होना. I'll definitely be wearing my maroon if that helps anyone in terms of where my loyalties lie. But 2-0 would be a bit of a stretch. 1-1, if I'm being extremely optimistic, 2-0 in all likelihood would be the scoreline at the end of the series.
Yeah, because weather-wise, I don't think it's going to be any sort of problems there. And I think India have those points to be taken for the WTC. So I'm guessing 2-0 you agree with as well.
Yeah, I think 2-0 either way. Let's see.
Okay, and hopefully 2 wins with Bumrah featuring in it. Otherwise, again, his record in tests will again be marred in a different story altogether. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into cricket.com and this episode of Bat Ball and Better. It's been an absolute fun time just discussing Indian matters after a long time, I should say. And on that note, we'll conclude. We'll see you shortly. Let us know in the comments if you guys want us to talk about anything else. Cheers.